Welcome to Basketball Heads Live. I'm your host, Glenn Pooh Harding, and tonight we have a very special guest. This basketball head comes from a long line of Harlem basketball luminaries. His father was one of the directors of the legendary Holcomb Rucker basketball tournament. He passed the torch to his son, who became a coach for the legendary Riverside Church. Now he's the coach for Team Durant and Gerstl High School in Maryland. After playing high school ball and college ball, he played 8 years of pro ball overseas. Help me welcome Long Island Lutheran and Wyoming great Al Eford. Let's do it.
Y'all ready? Yes. You have just stepped out into the world of chaos. Where everybody goes hard. Come on. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Or go home. Never back down. You gotta hold your own. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Go hard. East Coast. Go hard. West Coast. Go hard. Midwest. Go hard. Dirty. Hurry up, everybody. Get online. Buy your tickets, cause the game about to start.
Hey, what's up, Al?
What's going on, man? How you feeling, man?
I'm good, man. Blessed, man. I'm glad we could do this. Want to say what's up to my guy, Jamel Powell, our resident artist, cooking up something nice for you.
What's up, Jamel? How you feel, baby?
Peace, man. Peace. I don't know if you was able to check out any of the shows, but our guest gets a picture painted of them or drawn of them, right?
Okay.
And my artist who played for Coach Granby, he played for Jackson.
Okay.
So, we try to keep the basketball brotherhood tight, you know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
Well, it's a pleasure having you, man. I appreciate you being here. You were nominated by Miss Brenda Caldwell.
Yeah, Brenda.
Another basketball great.
Yeah, it's a good friend of mine. We've known each other since we were like kids, 13, 14 years old. And I'm also cool with her brother, Charlie Caldwell.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, from what I hear, man, she was a baller, man. Like,
yes, she was.
Big about life. She was. And she'll let you know that too.
She was before her time, to tell you the truth. If she was playing now, she would be one of the best players in the WNBA. There's no question about it.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah. So, first question of the night is, who introduced you to the game?
Oh, man. I mean, I was fortunate and lucky. My father, Al Eford Sr., he and legendary Coach Sam was very instrumental in me playing. I played with Sam as a bitty, 11, 12-year-old, but my pops was like he didn't even tell me to play. Just being around him and being around the stuff that he was around, I just wanted to play.
Cool. Where in Harlem did you grow up?
I grew up in Wagner Projects on the east side, 2360 First Avenue, Section 1. Section 1, so don't nobody tell you nothing different.
Gotta be specific. So, what was the first team you was on?
The first team I was on was Wagner Biddies with Coach Sam. And then once I got into Catholic Grammar School, I went to St. Thomas. But I went to St. Mark's first. So I can tell you a quick story. I was at St. Mark's. I was in the 6th grade. And like all kids, sometimes things happen. I got into a little fight in school. And so St. Mark's, they put me out. Put me out of school.
Wow.
But here's the thing. Not only did they put me out, imagine if you were 11 or 12-year-old, you get put out of school, but your parents don't come get you. In other words, you're not sitting in the office waiting for them. They put me out the building. So I had to leave by myself. I went to my grandmother's house because I didn't want to go home. But so my aunt, one of my father's sisters, comes to my grandmother's house. So I tell my aunt the story. My grandmother already told her already. So she goes, well, just wait for your father to get here and we'll handle it from there. So my aunt comes in. So I tell her what the nun said to me. This is what the nun said to me. And I never forgot this. And I'll be 35 September 19th. I'll be 65 September 19th. This is what the nun said. That's okay. He'll probably die in the gutter with a gun in his hand. I was 11 or 12 years old. That's what the nun said to me. So I'm at St. Thomas in the 8th grade, CYO. Guess who we getting ready to play? St. Mark. St. Mark.
Wow.
My father says to me, he says, and I quote, "I bet you gonna dance on them today." I didn't even say nothing to my father. And honestly, I wasn't really quite that good yet or anything like that. Because I'm in the 8th grade, and you know how bigs, we develop differently than guards do.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, that's the reality of it, right? So we played St. Mark's in Kennedy Center in the Catholic CYO League. I had 25 points and we beat them by 30.
Woo!
I never forgot that. Yeah.
That's a terrible thing to tell a child, first of all.
Yeah, I never forgot. So that just goes to show you, sometimes you gotta watch what you say to kids. I mean, you can get on a kid, but then try to reinforce the positive things behind them. But
right.
I can laugh at that now. And I've never gotten in trouble. I've never been in trouble. Never no dealing with the police. No drugs, no nothing. Went to school, went to college. So, that nun is long gone now. But I would love to have a conversation with her right now.
Oh man, that probably will be priceless.
Yeah,
I remember being in school and the opposite, right? Because I was at first trying to follow my brothers and what my brothers was doing, and when the teacher was saying, what do you want to be? And everybody was like, policeman, teacher, fireman. I remember standing up and was like, yeah, I'm going to go to right because I don't like my brother. I didn't feel this way. I was just trying to be different and doing what a child does, right?
Right.
Now, listen, I never forgot this. She said, okay, next.
Simple as that.
And like you, I ain't never hustled a drug. I ain't never been in slave cuffs. I ain't never been to jail or the penitentiary. Right?
First of all, I was just my dad.
There you go. Right. My mom was supposed to be in my heart.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like the opposite. Right? Kind of. But I remember the fact that she didn't try to correct me.
No. She let you learn the hard way.
There you go. So when I'm out there coaching or mentoring a child like I was doing earlier today, it's important to give those positive messages because we don't forget.
Oh, no question. And I got to give a shout out. To Keith Ryson, legendary player from Harlem. He went to St. Thomas, and another brother who went to St. Thomas, Gary Watson, who played at Wisconsin. So St. Thomas had a real good basketball background for little Catholic grammar school in Harlem.
Yeah, my guy Pat Alphonse is in the building saying what's up to you.
Oh, okay. Cool.
No doubt. Who was the best player in the neighborhood at that time when you were living in Wagner?
Well, actually, I guess you could say Joe was around Wagner a lot, but I can't count Joe. But you had a friend of mine, Leroy McDonald, who played at Wake Forest. And Mitchell, who was a really good player, but he didn't do some things in school, so that hurt. Another friend of mine, Frank Simpson, who was a pretty good player. We had a lot of players in Wagner. Robert Ortez, who played at Herron, he was a pretty good player. And he played at Herron with Cheese and those guys, and Jughead and Jimmy Burns and them dudes at Herron. So we had quite a few players in Wagner that could really play.
Nice.
I was kind of a late developer. In other words, I became like a better player a little late. I wasn't that good when we were younger.
Right.
But playing with those guys, that helped me to develop a lot.
Okay. And that's what it's about. When you're younger and you seeing the older guys doing their thing and they kind of inspiring you from afar, you say, well, damn, Pearl just killed down and sold in the hole, right? Wasn't as cool, but he was the best player in the neighborhood, right? Right. So those guys in Harlem are like on every block.
Oh, in every block, in every project, all over.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. John Arnold said, Big Al, one of my role models from the Chicken All-Star days.
Yep. John Arnold was a pretty good player himself. He was a pretty good
No
guard.
doubt.
Yeah.
We played against him in the city championship. He don't like when I mention that because we beat them for the city championship in '86. And we played with each other on the Madison Square Broncos too. So that's my guy. Good person. Who did you grow up modeling your game after?
You know what? My favorite player of all time was Connie Hawkins. That was my favorite player. But obviously my game was not like his. So I mean,
yeah. So my game wasn't like Pearl's either, but we can admire him from afar.
But I like Elvin Hayes. I like Wes Unseld. I like Paul Silas. I like Maurice Lucas. As a matter of fact, Cal Ramsey, who was a very good friend with my dad, used to eat at my father's restaurant all the time. When Maurice Lucas got traded to the Knicks, Cal used to bring him in 22 to eat. And we were at the park one day on 135th Street, just standing there talking. And that's when I got to know Maurice Lucas. And so getting to know him and talking to him, talking about the game of basketball and life and business and stuff, I got a chance to work out with him one time. And, I had said to him what some of my things were, what I couldn't do. And actually, he was the one that taught me, especially when I started coaching, don't worry about what a kid can't do. Worry about what he can do, and then work on the things that he can't do. So what he told me was, as a player, don't worry about what you can't do. Do the things that you can do, and work on those that you can't do. And Maurice Lucas was the one that told me that.
Wow, that was a great message. He said, Rafer Alston is in the building. He said, I don't know who your point guard was, a 13U team, coach.
Okay, you're gonna like this. You're gonna like this. I was coaching at Riverside, and I was coaching a 14 under team. So we went to the BCI, which is usually in Arizona, but this particular year it was in Texas. So my backcourt that year, 14 under, was Rafer Alston, who played at Fresno State and went to school in Queens. Okay, Shandu McNeil, who played at Malloy, St. Bonaventure. Selden Jefferson, who played at Bishop Loughlin and West Virginia. And said, who else? Oh, and I can't forget, and Kareem Reed, who was at St. Raymond's and played at Arkansas. That was my backcourt, those four dudes. That was my backcourt.
Tell me how y'all do, coach. How did you guys do?
We lost in the championship to Arizona.
Gotcha.
The only reason why we lost, like, our team was really good. And back then, in that tournament, you had to play man-to-man. So the funny thing was, we lost to a team in Arizona. They had 6'8", 6'6", 6'5", 14 under. The only reason why we lost, our biggest man was 6'4". And we didn't get out rebounded. It was just that if they did get a second shot at 14, stopping a second shot as opposed to 17 and 18 is a little different. A big is a big. I mean, it is what it is. But you had to play man-to-man. So what we did was nobody could guard us. So when I had those four guys in the game in every fourth quarter, I put Selden at the 4 in the corner, and they had to play us man-to-man, and nobody could guard us. We played in games where in the whole fourth quarter we never took a jump shot.
Wow.
We just ran, we pressed and ran, pushed the ball up. We got in the half court. I spreaded the floor with those four dudes. They penetrated and kicked. It wasn't always just penetrating, go one-on-one, and they was going to shoot it. They was penetrating and kick. The next guy would drive. Penetrate and kick, drive. But it wasn't penetrating and kick and shoot jump shots. It was penetrate and kick and get to the basket.
Right.
And so with those kids, I mean, they're not kids anymore, of course, but with those kids, they made me actually a better coach than I really was at that time.
Wow.
Yeah, they were pretty good. They were pretty good. They were little guys.
Not too many coaches will say that, especially when you got a group of players like that, right?
Oh no, I
That's
mean,
awesome.
at that age, they could play already. I mean, they could really play. But they were little. They were little guys.
Right.
And of course, they got better. They became better players, and I became a better coach.
Okay, that works. So, how did the dude from Harlem get out to Long Island Lutheran?
Well, I was at LaSalle Academy as a freshman, and I had a little incident with one of the teachers. His name was Brother Augustine. Okay. My coach was Brother Bernard Quigley, who was pretty cool. But Brother Augustine was our religion teacher. So you know how my dad and mom's weren't together, but my father was always in my life, and my father used to come home to my house to check my homework sometimes. At least 2 or 3 days a week, he used to come over to the house to check my homework. You know what I'm saying? Even though my mother was there when she came home from work, but my father was the one that did it, you know, whenever he could. And of course, as I got a little older, before I went away to Lutheran, he didn't do it as much because I was a little older. But anyway, so I had to write a composition in religion class. We had different things we had to do for like 3 weeks. So we had to write about faith, hope, love, charity, freedom, and what have you, things like that. So I wrote about freedom. So I wrote about Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and what have you. My father came, checked my homework, saw the composition, looked at it, you know, make sure I had the right punctuations and all that stuff in it, you know. So I thought it was pretty good. But I turned it in, and I got it back, and Brother Augustine wrote on it, I didn't ask you for no Martin Luther King BS. He gave me a 0. So my father, I took it home, so I had to go take it home and get it signed.
That's
so I said,
crazy.
Mom, can you sign this for me? So she looked at it and she said, why'd you get a 0? I said, I don't know. So my mother read it. She said, call your father. I said, okay. So I called my father, got him on the phone. I said, Dad, this is what happened. I got a 0. Mom told me to call you. He said, I'll be right there. Came over to the house. He read it. So he came to school. And I can't really tell you what was said in the meeting because I wasn't in the meeting.
Right.
But I know my father was there. Brother Bernard Quigley was there. Brother Augustine was there. And the guy who was the dean of boys, who was the assistant principal, which nobody in the school liked, he was there. At the end of the year, in that class, I failed that class. I would have had Brother Augustine again my sophomore year. So Coach Aber at that time, he wasn't the coach there yet. It was Coach Buckley,
Right.
Mr. Buckley. Mr. Buckley was a cool dude too, though. Anyway, I leave LaSalle. Cecil Watkins, who's a very good friend of my dad, Elmcore, told my father about Long Island Lutheran. It just so happened that Reggie at that time, this is before I started playing at Riverside, Reggie at that time, who was at Riverside then, was going to go to Lutheran. So I went out there, I took the test, I passed it. I'm at Alomar basketball camp. So I called home to speak to my mother. My mother said, you got a letter from Lutheran. I said, what did it say? She said, well, I didn't open it yet. I said, open it. So she opened it, and she said, I passed the test, and I got accepted to Lutheran.
Wow.
So that's how I got there. That's how I got Long Island Lutheran.
Okay. Now, I put up an article. I can't remember the guy's name. Remember I told you, I called you on this. There was an article that was written about an 8th grader who was going to Long Island Lutheran. And they mentioned you in that article as well. Oh, I had it written down, but it's in my other room.
Wayne McCoy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was, doing some research, and I came across this article, I think New York Times, 1970 something. And the article was based on him. And I only want to know what happened to him.
Well, first of all, let me clarify something. In the article, it had mentioned me, and it said I was the best player on the team.
Right.
I wasn't the best player. Reggie was the best player. Reggie was the best player on that team. I was a junior. He was
Reggie who, for all the people that need to know?
Reggie Carter. Reggie Carter, who had passed away from, actually, he passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease. So, if you don't know, I was told and taught that the ice bucket, remember the ice bucket challenge?
Yes.
Was the ice bucket challenge was a tribute to people who had Lou Gehrig's disease. That's where that came from. And so
I thought it was something else. It was Lou Gehrig?
It was Lou Gehrig's, it was multiple sclerosis, and it was a few
Okay, gotcha.
It had something to do with what they explained to me, and I know I'm probably not saying it right. It had something to do that when the cold and the ice hits you, your muscles and stuff don't perform as well. So it had something to do with that. So I did it as a tribute to Reggie. Anyway, Reggie was the best player on that team. He was a sophomore. When Wayne came in, he was a freshman. Reggie was a junior. Me and Kevin James were seniors. And that year, 74, his freshman year, we ended up 22 and 2. We were 10th in the nation, and 4 of us made either All-American or honorable mention All-American.
Woo!
We beat Archbishop Malloy, who was the Catholic 2 champ. We beat Andrew Jackson in the top 8 classic, but I'm gonna tell you that Andrew Jackson team, even though 74 Taft won it with my guys Eldridge and Claiborne and Price and them guys, like Wingate, but Andrew Jackson was really good. Andrew Jackson.
Yeah. Look. He
man. Those, if you talk to any of them guys that was on that team, they will tell you all those dudes could play. They friends of mine, and we played really well, and we ended up beating them. But so that year in '74, Wayne was a freshman. Wayne went on to play.
Was that for the state? Was that for the state championship or for the city?
No, let me tell you. At that time, New York State was the only state that didn't have a state champion playoff. New York City was the last.
It began in '79, right?
I'm gonna tell you, New York State was the last state to have a state championship. The top 8 classic, which we played in, which we lost to St. Anthony's of Smithtown, who froze the ball on us for like 4 minutes. That was the prelim of the coming fall state tournament. That set the state tournament. Because we were in it, St. Anthony's of Smithtown was in it, Andrew Jackson was in it, Paul Memorial, Troy Catholic was in it. Malloy was in it, so that was the predecessor of the New York State tournament.
Right. Wow. Yeah, we was having a discussion today on Zoom about the PSL and the Catholic School Leagues, and we were just going down the history of the state championships. And the Catholic schools won the first 7 state championships, starting with St. Anthony's in 1979.
Mm-hmm.
And they beat Norman Thomas. The score was something like 39, 34, something like that.
If I'm correct on that, Norman Thomas team was Bill Sattler.
Probably so.
Bill Sattler was their best player who played at Pepperdine.
Gotcha.
Big Daddy Boogie? Yeah, that was Bill Sattler's team.
Okay.
So it was him, Shula. Damn, I forgot who else was on that team, but they had a pretty good team. They had a really good team.
Who was your main competition in high school?
Our main competition in high school in Long Island, our main competition was my senior year was St. Agnes. We played.
Billy Donovan, yo, I gotta get this guy. Let me tell you something. His name come up more than anybody else's name. Like Billy Donovan's name in that school, St. Agnes. Anytime I'm having someone on this show, his name comes up, or it's like St. Ag. Like we stumbled because we lost to St. Agnes, or Billy Donovan shot our lights out.
But let me tell you, people don't realize, except the guys that played, people don't realize at that time you had in Long Island, you had St. Agnes, you had Southside with Beaver Smith who played at St. John's. You had my man Jim Graziano, who played in South Carolina from Long Island. You had Mitch Kupchak, who was from Long Island. You had Frank Alasia, who was from Long Island, who played at St. John's. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys that went to school in Long Island, that went to high school in Long Island, that were really good. And when our Long Island teams that we played, they were pretty good. But we also played city teams. So we played Taft, we played Malloy, we played Andrew Jackson, we played Boys High. My high school, Lutheran, at that time was the only school at that time. We beat the Catholic school champ, the New York City Catholic school champ, and we beat the New York City public school champ. So that's where people can say that.
Yeah, well, I love to say the same thing because when we won it in '86, we beat Malloy, and then we beat Alsavia Lutheran.
Yeah, see, there wasn't no state championship back then. And see,
yes, it was. In '86 there was because we lost to Binghamton.
Yeah.
Oh, and y'all, what year was when you graduated?
74.
74. So it's 79, right? I'm gonna read off the championship. 79 where it started. You had St. Anthony, that's South Huntington. They beat Mount Vernon 36-34. Then Nazareth beat Norman Thomas 76-69. St. Agnes beats Cuba. Who the hell is Cuba? 106-62.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then the B division was Bishop Newman versus Bridgehampton. That was the B division.
Right.
The PSAL doesn't get its first win until 1982, and that's with Benjamin Franklin, 1982.
Right, Franklin. Right. But see, what happened was, what people don't realize, and we talked about a little bit about this before, when the change started going over from the public school to the Catholic school in terms of players, more black players started going to the Catholic school. Because when I was in school, Malloy was all white. Holy Cross was all white. St. Francis was almost all white. The only schools that had black players was Rice, Palm Memorial, Bishop Dubois, All Hallows, and LaSalle.
Wow.
Bishop Lachlan at that time wasn't good. Talentine wasn't even heard of. Let me see what else. Christ the King wasn't nothing.
What about Hayes? What about Cardinal Hayes?
And Hayes had blacks. I'm sorry. Hayes had blacks.
Okay.
Hayes had blacks.
Gotcha.
Hayes had brothers. So it was only like 5 or 6 schools that had brothers.
When did that change? When did that shift started?
I know the first, for instance, the first person of color, if you want to say Latino, black, whatever, was who went to Talentine, Mr. Loyce. It was Joey DeSantis. Mr. Loyce and Joey DeSantis at the Talentine. And then of course, then the progression of brothers, Latino brothers and black brothers started going to Talentine. In the late 70s, early 80s, then it started to change, where there wasn't as many brothers going to public school. I'm sorry, more brothers started going to the Catholic School League. Because remember now, you got schools like Boys High and Clinton, okay, who had 3,000 boys. And then you heard.
I'm gonna cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
Clinton was all boys at that time too.
Yeah, Clinton.
No wonder. Now I get it.
Yeah. See, at one time, Clinton and Boys High was all boys. Both schools was all boys. And you had 3,000 boys there.
They got the most championships. You know that.
Exactly.
Clinton got 18. Boys High got, I think, 14.
Right.
And then we third with 13.
So here's the.
We was always co-ed.
Right, but see, here's the thing. There are legendary stories, if you talk to guys who went there, and even guys who didn't go there, that will tell you there was dudes walking the halls, in the lunchroom, or in gym classes, or after school playing in the courts, that were better than some of the dudes on the varsity.
Thanks.
And for whatever reason, they couldn't get along with the coach, they didn't want to go to school, they had bad grades, they wanted to do other things, so that's what happened. And we all know, and let's be honest, we all know there's guys in our neighborhood that we grew up with that were really, really good, and for whatever reason, it didn't go that way.
Yeah.
And we knew how good they were, but for whatever reason, they didn't do what they needed to do in school.
Right.
So that happens. So we can be, if you're honest and tell the truth, you know that.
Well, brother, I'm gonna ask you to be honest on this next question.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
This next question is basically about competition. You facing someone that you know you've been looking to get at for a while. You finally meet him.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all go mano a mano.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to tell whether you get to the next level or not.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Who ass did you bust to let you know you was ready to go to the next level?
Honestly, it was, I never had a situation like that. But here's what I had. You know how when you're playing and you do something in a game, or you play a certain level a certain way, that happened to me. And then I realized, oh, I can play.
Okay.
And so when I realized I could play, then everything else came in. Everything else came together. It
What
was
was
never
that moment?
It was never. It was in. It was in Wagner Center. We playing against Jefferson Park. So I'm playing with Wagner. Me, Leroy McDonald, Frank Simpson, Kenny Mitchell. We're playing with Wagner. We're playing against Jefferson Park. And they had Ron Artest, Ronald Tucker, they had Spider Mitchell, and so, they had Ruben. So they had the guys playing with Jefferson Park. So we're playing them. We ended up beating them. But I did a move which I didn't know I could do. So I remember like it was yesterday. I was on the right side of the court. I jabbed. I put the ball on the floor. I went in and out. I put it between my legs from my right to my left. Took one more dribble, took off, and I laid it over the rim. It didn't really register at first. But as I made the move and came down, I'm running down court, I saw the reaction with everybody in the gym. And that's what it was. That's what it was. That's not really who I was.
No doubt, no
So
doubt.
it wasn't really against any person. It was something that I did, and I said I can play.
That's something that a lot of us ball players we go through. We have those moments. We have those magical moments where we accomplish something that we probably didn't think we can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being in those situations. You get right there, you want to dunk it, but you want to lay it up, and sometimes you get in between and you miss those shots. But for you to make it, that's big.
Of course. I never really had. I mean, I didn't. And then somebody told me something I don't know. But I never really had a person that I had a thing for or a thing against in terms of a rivalry playing against. I never did. Unless somebody thought they was my rival, I didn't know nothing about it. But I can't think of a person that I would say that I had like I want to go at him. I don't think I had somebody like that. I don't think I had somebody like that.
Okay. So what schools was recruiting you outside of Wyoming?
Oh man, I mean a lot of schools in the area, but I wasn't getting recruited by St. John's as much as I would have liked. So I was getting recruited by LaSalle and Philly. I was getting recruited by quite a few Philly schools, which was kind of crazy. I was getting recruited by St. Joseph's. I was getting recruited by LaSalle. By the way, that's where Kobe's father went. Kobe's father went to LaSalle. He went Joe Bryant.
That's right. The Bean. That's right.
Yeah. And I got quite a few letters from a couple of Big Ten schools, Michigan, Indiana, but I wasn't quite that level. I don't think I was really good enough for that level. I was like right below that level, if that makes sense to you.
No, definitely.
What happened was I was going to go to St. Joseph's. The coach at that time was Jack McKinney. St. Joseph's must have come to see me play like 4 or 5 times in high school my senior year. So they was getting recruited. They was recruiting me hard, and I wanted to go there once I visited. So I visited, went to the game in Philly at the Palestra. They played LaSalle. They beat LaSalle in overtime. And Joe Bryant was a senior on that team, on the LaSalle team, Kobe's dad. He was a senior on that team. Jack McKinney gets fired, and they went to the NCAAs that year, and they lost to Pitt, who had Billy Knight, who eventually lost to State, North Carolina State, who had David Thompson, who won the title. So I got this letter late, this information late. They started recruiting me late, Wyoming. And the reason why I went to Wyoming, I made a basketball decision instead of a life decision. Meaning, because of the conference that they were in and who I would have been playing against, I was like, ooh, okay. Because at that time, remember now, Arizona and Arizona State wasn't in the Pac-10 yet.
Nope.
They were in the Western Athletic Conference.
Yeah.
The Western Athletic Conference at that time was called the Wacky Whack. And it was one of the top 5 conferences in the country at that time. Because remember, there wasn't no Big East. It wasn't no Big East. It was the ECAC.
Yeah.
You had the ACC, you had the Big Ten, you had the Pac-8, you had the Western Athletic Conference. Now, you had the SEC, which Tennessee, Kentucky, and old school, but at that
was
time,
more down south, right?
No, not that it was down south, but they were still a football conference.
Right. Okay, that's right.
And,
that's right. That's
and the
right.
two
That's
teams, the 2 best teams in that conference was Kentucky and Tennessee.
Yes.
So when Bernard and Ernie went to Tennessee, that took them up another level. So it was always them and Kentucky in the SEC. And a lot of brothers wasn't going to the SEC.
Right.
Not no Southern white schools, not then.
Right.
Okay. Right. Except for, now in the ACC, there was brothers in the ACC, but it still wasn't a lot. So a quick story. My high school, Reggie was a junior. So his junior year, he made high All-American. Now I made honorable mention All-American. But so St. John's wanted him, North Carolina wanted him, a lot of schools wanted him. He ends up visiting Hawaii, and of course, you know what happened. He ends up going to Hawaii.
That's right.
But anyway, my senior year, Pastor Bishop calls me into his office. That was our coach, Reverend Bishop. Calls me into his office. And he said, listen, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. So he tells me, he says, listen, you know North Carolina wants Reggie real bad. I said, yeah. Now here's the connection. Bill Chamberlain, who's from Harlem, who was a Lutheran, who played at North Carolina, 1971 NIT MVP, he played in the ABA, NBA. That's the connection. Okay, that's the connection with Harlem, Lutheran, and Carolina. That's the connection. Pastor Bishop says to me, he says, look, honestly, I don't know how much you would play, but if it would help, and because of our connection with Lutheran and whatever, you know, if you go to Carolina, I don't know how much you would play your freshman or sophomore year, but they will give you a scholarship, and plus the fact that maybe they will try to get Reggie. So I was like, ooh. And at that time, that next year, I mean, they had Phil Ford, Mitch Kupchak, Tommy Lee Gard, Walter Davis. I mean, they was loaded. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest with you, I wasn't quite that level as a player. I wasn't quite that level. And I don't have no problem with that. But I probably would have played like my junior year, which was fine. So anyway, to make a long story short, I go to Wyoming. But if I had to do it all over again, I would have went to Carolina. And I'd have been part of that family, that history, that whole nine. You know, so plus the fact that Charlie Scott, he's also from Harlem. He went to North Carolina.
That's what I want to say. What high school Charlie went to?
He was at Stuyvesant. Excuse me. He was at Stuyvesant before he went to school at Longburg. He went to Stuyvesant.
Got you.
How do you know he's a lawyer?
How do you go from Stuyvesant to Longburg? Like,
well, he was at that time. Longburg was a school where was a basketball powerhouse. It was a school where you can get away, go away to school, get your academics, do whatever. Charlie Scott was a really good student anyway. Plus, he's an attorney now anyway. He's an attorney. He's been an attorney for a long time. And
we'd love to interview him.
So for whatever reason, that worked out for him. And of course, the rest is history. He became the first black athlete at the University of North Carolina. First black, and because Dean was really, really into doing the right thing, cut
Yeah.
out the racist stuff, the nonsense. And if you hear Charlie he talked about how close he was with Dean. And Dean was a really good guy.
Arthur Lee Walker said, but what you said, but you would have improved playing with that talent at North Carolina.
Yeah. And honestly, I got a chance to play overseas anyway. I wasn't good enough to play in the NBA, which was cool. I can admit that. A lot of people ask you sometimes, they say, why you been playing in the league? I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough to play. Everybody can't play in the NBA. That's the reality. Everybody can't play in the league. I could never understand when I was younger, when guys used to talk about ball and we talk about the NBA, talking about players, and guys would say, "Oh man, he ain't this, or he can't play, he sucks." I'm like, wait a minute, he ain't the
NBA for a reason.
Like that's the top of the profession. You can't get no higher than that.
That's
so
right.
guys will say, "Man, I know there's dudes that will bust dudes in the NBA." True, yes, but they not there. So you can't say somebody's not this when they're there doing what they do. Everybody has to play. Everybody can't be a star. Some people are superstars. Right. Some people are stars. Some people are great role players. Some people are better coming off the bench. That's exactly why they have a 6-man award. That's the reality of it. So, I got a chance to go and see the world, go to cities that people dream about going to, and I came home, I played in the Rucker, I played in Brooklyn, I played in West Forth, and, I played with some really good teams that won championships, and I played with some teams that wasn't as good, where I made an all-star team. I played 2 teams I played with that won championships, Harlem, USA, and Primetime. Both teams were loaded.
Yo, were you on that Primetime? You're probably a little older. I don't know. Was you on that Primetime team in the 90s with Anthony Mason?
I played against him the first time I played against Primetime. I was still with Harlem, USA. And we played against them at West 4th Street. And then I think it was a year or 2 later, I played with Primetime a couple of times. And I won championships with Primetime. Didn't play it a whole lot. When I was at Harlem, USA, I played a little bit more with Harlem, USA than I did with Primetime. But both teams was loaded. So it wasn't.
Oh, yeah, we played against them in the championship that I remember vividly. And we won that game.
I can name all type of names that tell you that was on that team. But here's the crazy part. I played with another team in West 4th Street one time with Marty's crew. Okay?
Very famous one, yeah.
Right. My backcourt was Pete Edwards, Kurt Sumter, okay?
Rest in peace.
Right. John, what's John's last name? John Hunter, okay? Carrie Scurry, who else on that team? Oh my goodness. Trevor Green. That team was loaded.
Wow.
And because of the way I played with that team, I knew what my role was. This one particular game, we were playing a really good team. And Pete and Kurt were hot. They was like, you talking about a hell of a backcourt play together. They were hot. So for some reason, I've always had good hands. So I can always catch. I can always catch and finish. I wasn't no high flying dude, but I always had good hands. And I could pass. So this one particular game was just one of those games that Pete and Kurt kept coming down court and throwing me the ball. And they kept cutting off me. And I was just hitting them layup after layup. So it was like the first cutter get by, okay, here comes the second cutter, which is either Kurt or Pete. The first cutter was either Pete or Kurt. I had about almost 15 assists that game.
Wow.
Just off of them two. And on the weak side, Kerry Scurry would come, cut, I would hit him off, and he would dunk it. So that particular year, I was one of the leaders in the league with assists, and I made the All-Star team, not because I was so good.
Right.
I had scorers. And so because I knew my role, you know what I'm saying, I played to what my role was. And I had a great year. Played in the All-Star game and almost got MVP.
Wow.
So I'm not mad, and I can admit that. That's cool.
All right, so what years were you at Wyoming?
I was at Wyoming 74, 75 was my freshman year. I left in 77, 78, and I transferred to UMass. I didn't play. I was just trying to finish up my school stuff. And I used to work out with the team and all that and everything. And then after that year, I was living in D.C. for a year, and then after that, I went overseas. My first year overseas was I was playing in Scotland. Played in Scotland my first year.
How was that?
Oh, man, I'm going to tell you something. Playing overseas, depending on what country you played in and what level you played on, it was great, man. I mean, I got to see the world, playing 2 games a week, practicing 3 times a week, doing something you love to do. You know, you got to go to different cultures, different countries, and experience things, and it was terrific. My favorite place, of course, because of the language, one of my favorite places was Scotland. Then my other favorite place I went to visit was Brazil.
Was what?
Brazil.
Okay. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and now you gotta remember now, this was years ago.
I know. So you were getting prime of the prime.
Right. So I was 25 years old.
Yes.
So it's not like all the stuff and all the things that you hear about Brazil now and stuff you got to worry about. This was back in the day where it wasn't no whatever. And,
right. You can free love, baby.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing. And I wasn't, and I understand this. Playing overseas in certain countries was like you playing in the NBA. In terms of meeting people, connections, women, and everything, it was playing in South America was really cool. But Rio, I was there for 2 weeks one time at a tournament. I don't even know what to tell you, man.
He can't even speak. And this is over 40 years ago. Wow.
Yes. And it's like I can't even begin to tell you, man, how amazing that was.
Oh,
I wasn't no NBA dude.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you can imagine like with
my guy Kennard Robinson, he went to UMass, he's on here, he played overseas, and he's agreeing with you.
Yeah, and I coach Kennard. I coach Kennard at Riverside.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a whole nother level. Like
wow.
a friend of mine, I told a friend of mine one time, I said about the girl that I met when I was down there. So he was like, well, you know, why didn't they bring her back? What happened? I said, yo, man, I'm 25 years old. The last thing I'm thinking about is bringing somebody back and getting married. Now at 25.
Right.
So, but how can I say this? She, at that time, the girl I met down there, she definitely was above my pay grade. I definitely outkicked my coverage with her. There's no question about it.
I can't bring her back. She gonna know the real me.
Yeah, above my pay grade. She was incredibly beautiful. It was ridiculous.
That's dope. So how do you connect with Team Durant?
A friend of mine, who's one of the assistant directors of the program, his name is Oz Bangura. His brother played at St. John's, but Oz was coaching with a team called Takeover, and I was coaching with Baltimore Elite or Mello. So what happened was Oz and I had connected, and we was cool. We've been cool ever since. So one day I was coaching with Crusader Nation, and he and I had talked, and he was leaving Takeover to start his old program, to start the program with Team Durant, with the Team Durant crew. So he says, listen, Al, man, I want to sit down and talk to you, see if we can get together. We'd love to have you over here, this, that, and the other. So finally, 2 years, this is the second year, going on last year, when the season first started, I was with Mid-Atlantic Select. So I said, well, listen, let me finish up with this tournament here with Mid-Atlantic Select, and I appreciate it, man. I'm all in. So he said, cool. So I finished with Mid-Atlantic Select with the seniors, and I told my guy, who was the head coach of the 17s, I was assistant coach. I said, listen, man, my man want me to come over to Durant. I might do that. And the guys at Mid-Atlantic, they was cool with it. They was like, nah, man, we understand, no problem. So, and that's how I got to Team Durant. That's how I got team because my man Oz, Coach Oz. And Wayne, who's Kevin Durant's father, he's a really, really good guy. He's a really good guy. So all those dudes over there, good dudes. It's a great program. We got kids from all over the DMV and some from Baltimore. So it's a good program, good situation, and so it's good people over there.
So, and you coaching at Gersdale High School as well, right?
Yes, Gersdale High School is a private school which is in the MIAA, which the MIAA is like the Catholic School League in New York, or the WCAC in DC. High caliber basketball. They were in the B conference. Now they're in the A conference.
Nice.
So it's a real good school, big time basketball, high school basketball. We got some good guards, but we don't have any size, so we're trying to get some size. But our school, our facilities is great. Our campus is like a college campus.
Wow.
Our weight room is outstanding. The academics is good. The classes are small. And it's a really good situation. The headmaster or principal is a really great guy. The guy that's the principal of the school, he's a good guy. And our head coach, I'm the assistant and associate head coach. He's assistant principal for the middle school.
Wow.
So we can get kids in, and it's a really good situation.
So have you been keeping up with New York City basketball at all?
Yes and no. And the reason why I say yes and no, because during the season, I'm busy with my season. And, I can't get back as much as I used to. In other words, coaching in the private Catholic school, I don't have as much time as I did coaching in the public school.
Gotcha.
And what I mean by that is, for instance, public schools can't play on Sunday. They can't play on holidays. So I was able to get to New York sometime when we were off. So I would come up to New York, go up to the Gaucho Gym, watch those games. I would come up and go to FIT, watch those games. So I would come and do stuff, and then plus, I got my guys. Dwayne, Bingo, Thurman, and all my other guys up there who are coaching the school. So I talk to them, or I get a chance, or some kids that happen to find out that's from New York, and I see the people on the circuit. I see the team, the AAU team that's from New York, in the Nike circuit. I get to see them, get to see all my guys that's coaching, guys that I coached, the kids that play on the New York teams. This year,
that works.
Of course, we didn't do it this year because of the virus.
Come on, yes. So, what are your perceptions of New York City basketball today?
See, this is my thing, and I think this is at a lot of places. For instance, at one time, New York was spoiled because we had so many kids who happened to make high-level All-American teams on McDonald's. So we don't have as many high-caliber All-Americans on McDonald's. But because New York is so big, people talking about, people say, basketball is down. And it may be, according to what your perception is. But because there's so many people in New York, there's a lot of kids in New York that can play. Just like in Baltimore, there's a lot of kids in Baltimore that can play. But they may be not high caliber McDonald's on. Right now, I'm not going to say DMV, but I will say connections. It's a combination of DMV and the WCAC. The WCAC right now, I think, is probably the best league in the country. Which is the WCAC is the Catholic School League in DC. You have DeMatha, you have Gonzaga, you have Paul VI, you have Archbishop Carroll, you got all those schools. And a lot of kids from that conference are going to the big schools, the Dukes, the Kansas, the Villanova, that type of thing. So the New York City Catholic School League is still one of the top leagues in the country. It's just that whereas, for example, the WCAC may have 10 to 15 high majors, well, maybe the Catholic School League in New York City may have only 5 to 7 high majors, if whatever you want to call it. And so, to me, there's always ebbs and flow in every city, in every state. Are you talking about public school? Are you talking about Catholic school? And I'm going to tell you another thing. Here's another problem. The State Association for High School Basketball is almost as bad as the NCAA.
Yes.
And here's what I mean by that. For instance, there are only 9 states that have a shot clock. Why only 9 states have a shot clock? And I'm going to tell you something else, which a lot of people don't know. If you, as a state, say, let's pick a state. Let's just pick Tennessee, okay? So say Tennessee decides they want a shot clock. And they vote, the state federation votes, okay, now we got a shot clock in the state of Tennessee for public school. Do you know they lose their voting privileges for the National High School Basketball Federation? They can't vote on any decisions that the state federation may want that put out there for its members. Guess why? Because they decided to have a shot clock. Because the shot clock is not part of the National Federation. It's part of the Tennessee State Federation, but not part of the National Federation. So the National Federation says, okay, y'all voted to have a shot clock? Okay, you'll lose your voting privileges. So those 9 states that have a shot clock, they can't vote on national decisions for high school basketball federation.
So that counts New York?
Yeah, counts New York. Mm-hmm. Now, how ironic is this? New York State was the last state to have a state tournament, but New York State was the first state to have a shot clock. Ain't that crazy?
Yo, we got to come back for part 2. Okay. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna come right back in. We gonna come back for part 2. I've got a few more questions to ask you before we wrap it up.
Okay, no problem.
That was powerful.
Yeah. You just step into the world. Hey. Where everybody goes. Go hard. Never back down. You gotta hold your own. Go hard. Everybody get online, buy your tickets, cause the game about to start. No time to kick in. Rush to your seat, step inside my arena. Lace up my sneakers, change up my demeanor. The coach put a plan together, gather the team up. We go hard, let the team come between us. We the reason why they let's move to Medina. In the front row, lounging with our feet up. So walk through the tunnel, it's time to turn the heat up.
Say what? We back. Part 2, Al Eford. Man, listen. He's going back. He's dropping knowledge. He's dropping names. Like, oh man, all of legendary people he played against, the legendary people he grew up with. It's incredible. New York City, the first state to have a shot clock. Word? And we can't even vote on a national level. This is why New York City have never really had a national championship or a national championship team. Is that crazy? This is why basketball is very important, because this history is very important. It's valuable if we want to move forward. Definitely. Salute Al Eford, man. You saw your piece?
Yeah.
You got to see it?
Yeah. I'm going to check it out fully. I wanted to come back like you said.
Oh, yeah. No, I was checking out. I was showing the art piece earlier. You didn't get a chance to see it?
Oh, no, I didn't get a chance to see that.
Let me hook you up. Let me hook you up real quick.
Okay. Wow. I got a big head, don't I?
we got you thinking about dunking and basketball, and it got your name there.
Oh, that's nice, man. That's really nice. Oh, wow, that's cool.
So you definitely got to send me your address so I can send that out to you, my brother.
Oh, I definitely will, man. I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it. It's what we do here at Basketball Heads, man. Just give our guys, ladies, their crowns and flowers, and appreciate you, because as you see, you helped out a lot of men, a lot of youngsters to turn to men. They called me, they hit me up, they come in the room, they give you your props, man. So salute to you.
Let me give you a shout out. Let me give a shout out to. I'm not going to say too many names because if I do, I'm going to forget some. And
right.
But there were guys before me, and all I'm doing is try to continue what my dad and all those guys gave to me. One story is I was coaching with Riverside, and I was coaching a midget team, 14 under, and I'm in Colonel Young Park, 145th Street Park, Lenox. So I'm coaching. And Stan Brown, who's a legendary coach of the Cavaliers, Coach Cheese and Ernest Ivory and Jimmy Burns and Jughead and all those guys from the Hill who played at him. So he was walking by the park. I played against the Cavaliers, all that stuff. And he watched me coach. So, of course, he knew my father, the Rucker and the whole nine and all that. And he's talking to me after the game. And he's giving me, constructive criticism and telling me this and telling me that. But what he said to me, which was the most, to me, I thought was the best part, he said to me, he says, man, I'm proud of you, little Al Jr., man. Your father would be very proud of you. And I was like, wow, okay. So getting that from Stan, and now I'm coaching, and I remember him coaching when I was a kid, that was kind of cool. So him and Sam, when first time Sam saw me coach, and Sam, what he told me, that was great. And then of course Coach Bunn, Honey Bun, that was who was my first coaching mentor at Riverside. So those three guys, plus so many other guys, man. John Isaac, when I was coaching with Kiss, and I never coached men before, so he came and watched my practice. Mr. Couch at Dykeman, who was mentor, Cecil Watkins, man, Coach Floyd Lane. See, I said I wasn't gonna start naming names because then I'm gonna start.
Nah, brother, this is your time, man. It's your time, man. It's your time.
Ernie Brown and Tiny, who was our coach, who coached me in the Rucker. Mr. Booker, I'll save you, Lutheran, Whitney. Reverend Burkett, Roger Buster Bryant, Milbank, Rapp and Lester Roberts of Brooklyn, Gil Reynolds. All these guys that I'm naming, they all knew my dad. So they were friends with my dad. So for me, I was like a little kid in a candy store getting all this from all these dudes, man. So number one, I had no choice but to be on my P's and Q's. That's number one. And then number two, I learned so much from all these guys, man. Pelham Fritz. It's like, there's so many guys. Ollie Edinburgh, Mr. Ollie, Howie Evans, Charlie Hoxie. I can go on and on all day long, man.
Wow.
If I keep naming names, I'm gonna forget people, and guys would call me.
Nah, don't worry about it, man. So it's a three-part question, right?
Okay.
Who is the best high school, college, and pro you played against? Three people. Best high school, college, and pro you played against.
Okay, the best two high school guys I played against in an actual game in that camp would probably be Bernard King and Adrian Danley.
Wow.
In high school.
Wow.
Actually, high school game.
Wow.
Adrian Danley went to DeMatha.
Right.
We played DeMatha. And in the Wagner Easter tournament, I was playing with Wagner. We played against Brooklyn Restoration.
Wow.
So those two guys in high school.
Okay. College.
Probably Robert Parrish.
Where did he play? He played at the black school, right? Played at the
He played at Centenary.
Sentinel. Yeah, that's right. Sentinel. That's right.
It's probably Robert Parrish first, either Michael Cooper or Lionel Hollins second. Oh, and Tom Chambers. In college.
And pro.
Probably playing against him in the Summer Pro League, probably, I don't know, probably Gus.
Williams?
Probably Gus Williams. Yeah,
Woo!
Probably Gus.
Probably
Gus.
You. Yeah. The Williams boys is bad, man.
Oh no, they good. They were good friends of mine. You know, rest in peace, Ray.
Definitely, rest in peace, Ray.
But you know, the best team in high school that we played against probably would be either DeMatha or Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon. Let me tell you something, man. Let me just run this down real quick. Mount Vernon has. We're gonna go down, right? So we're gonna start. Hold on, because they was in the championships, but they wasn't winning them, right? But then something happened. Mount Vernon, 1991, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go down some more. Then I know they won a few more. They was just in them. I was like, Mount Vernon 2000 again. But they were just always there. Either they were losing or winning. Mount Vernon again, 2004. Mount Vernon again, 2006.
Do you know why Mount Vernon is always good? You want to know why?
Why?
Okay. Well, in New York City, we got the boroughs, right?
Right.
Okay, in the borough, you got Catholic school or public school, right? And in some boroughs, of course, you got many schools, okay? Mount Vernon is considered Westchester County, correct?
Right.
Okay. Yonkers has 4 high schools. Mount Vernon has 1 high school.
So they get all the best of the best.
You get everybody.
They were actually in the first state championship as well. They lost 36-34 to St. Anthony's in the first state championship. Mount Vernon.
What happens is the kids from the elementary school go to the middle school. The kids from the middle school go to the high school. And not only that, let's also be honest. You got kids from in certain parts of the Bronx, especially the upper Bronx,
yes,
that could play. They'll try to get to Mount Vernon if they can.
Wow.
That's why Mount Vernon is always good. When we was in high school and we scrimmaged Mount Vernon my sophomore year. They had Rudy Hackett, Earl Tatum, Ray Williams, Lowe's Moore. They were loaded when we scrimmaged them. You know, they beat us. They beat us in the scrimmage. You know, they beat the hell out of us. And then the other good team I played against my sophomore year was Wilbur Cross. They had Roland Jones and Mickey Hurd. As a matter of fact, I think Mickey Hurd went to LSU. They also had as sophomores Bruce Campbell, who played at Providence, played in the NBA, and then Jiggy Williamson, John Williamson's younger brother.
Wow.
So they were very good. DeMatha had Adrian Dantley, Kenny Carr, Billy Langlow, Roddy Satterwhite, Hawkeye Whitney, Vern Allen. They was loaded. So my high school career, we beat everybody else we played against almost, and we could never beat them.
Wow. That's crazy.
And then I played against Moses at 5-star.
and he went straight to the league, so I know he was down there beasting everybody. I
think their team was 7-0 or 8-0 at camp, and they won the camp championship that year.
I can imagine.
Yeah, he was the best player. No
wow.
question. Yeah.
So what do you do to stay healthy and in shape for yourself these days?
Well, I'm recovering, believe it or not. I'm recovering from lung surgery.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I had a bout with cancer.
Wow.
But not from smoking or anything, but it was real
cool. Right.
Stage 1, they was able to cut it out, and so I'm good. So I'm good.
Congratulations, my brother.
Yeah, man. It's just I got to be careful because between the surgery and my age, because of the virus and all that, I got to be careful. So if we would have basketball stuff, I wouldn't have been doing that much this year. But other than that, I'm good.
Good. You was naming all those guys in the team. My guy, Marco, he went to Utrecht and played at Hofstra. He said, is it illegal? Is it legal to have all these guys on one team?
Well, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't know that George Johnson went to New Utrecht. A lot of people don't know he went to New Utrecht.
I didn't know that.
I told somebody that because we was having this discussion and they were saying we used to have this game all the time. We used to play this game at camp all the time. And also my New York guys, you name a high school and name the best player who went to that high school. So what the criteria was, so guys used to be like, well, Al, you talking about college career after high school or they overall career? I said, well, overall career. That means the NBA career too. So we was naming schools and this, that, and the other, and you got to pick a guy who went to a certain school, well, who was the best player from that high school. And if you play that game with some people, depending upon the age of the guy, will determine most time how old they are or if they really know the history of their school. Wow,
that's a great game. We're going to do that one day in a Zoom session. That's dope.
Yeah. Like your school, who's the best player from your school?
Stephon Marbury.
You think so? Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. All right.
Overall, everything. As a player, yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So since that's in Brooklyn, let me name a school in Brooklyn. So who's the best player who ever played at Boys High?
I would say the Hawk.
There you go. That's the game. That's the game.
Right. Got you. That's
the game.
So, with all this experience in the game, your dad passed it down to you. Are you passing it down to anyone?
Kids, I've coached a few guys here in Baltimore that I coached. And one of my ex-players coached with me, was my assistant coach for a couple of years. So two kids that I coached, one coached with me at Concordia when I was the head coach there, and another kid coached with me when I was at Friends, and I was assistant head coach and the head JV coach there. So I'm doing what I can in coaching the kids.
That's right, brother.
Yeah.
That's good.
You gotta remember now, people don't realize Baltimore is one of those cities, is a basketball city that has great basketball tradition. And, a lot of people don't realize how good the tradition here in Baltimore is. Baltimore, DC, Chicago, Detroit, Houston, and of course, over the past few years, Seattle now with all them guys from Seattle.
Yeah. You were seeing Adrian Dantley. We were seeing David Wingate and Muggsy Bogues, right? So they kept that tradition going. I know when we was coming up, right? It just kept going. Dunbar, that's right.
Dunbar was fantastic. Won national championships and that type of thing. Well, here's something that a lot of people don't know. At one time, the public schools in Baltimore were part of the MIAA before they went to the state, and that's why the public schools back then could travel and play all those games, because the MIA conference doesn't have a limit of games that you can play or not. Whereas the public schools in the state of Maryland, you can only play 22 games.
Wow.
Yeah. So that has something to do with it also. So.
Wow. Listen, man, you are a walking encyclopedia.
Somebody wrote Zavarian Chris Mullin. In other words,
Chris
Chris Mullin.
That's my partner. Yeah.
He wrote Chris Mullin, best player Zavarian.
Okay. Yeah. He went to Zavarian as well, my guy. So.
Yeah.
We come to that time where I always ask my guests to nominate someone to be on the show. Because I tell people, unless you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, the only way you get in the show is somebody nominates you. Somebody nominated you and you're here. So you think about a New York great that you would think should be on the show.
You want a player or a coach?
Both.
Durman player.
Excuse me?
Durman player.
Who's that?
Used to coach with me at Riverside Church.
Got you. You know
Durman
I'm going to do my homework.
Let me tell you, man, Durman has coached a lot of guys. I mean, speaking of Stephon, he coached Stephon when he was little. So, Durman player.
Durman player? All right, and who else?
If you get a chance to, if you want a player, I'm thinking, let me see. Dang, I mean, so many guys that.
Listen, I'm trying to get Tiny Archibald. So anybody can throw a ball at his way. I got like about 5 people working on him.
Okay, Tony Childs. See if you
I
get Tony Childs.
already had Tony Childs.
Oh, okay.
I got Darryl Walker tomorrow, and BJ Carter on Wednesday.
Okay, cool.
So you just think about it. Thurman player is good for now.
Okay.
And I want more females as well. So let's give females some love.
Okay, then. Definitely.
All right.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No doubt. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, brother. You too, man. Loved it.
All right.
Take care. All right.
Yep.